I'm Cassie Elle, and today I'm going to be talking to you about appealing to content creators. A little bit about me is I have been a content creator for like 4 years, 5 years, something like that. And I started making content doing written reviews of games, and then I started doing video reviews of games. And now I still do video reviews, but I also make tutorial videos. I have a live stream interview show that's hosted by the Game Crafter. I do written stuff sometimes. But also on the flip side of the content creation coin, I have designed a game that's been published by somebody else, and I've also localized and published a game that was designed by somebody else. So I've had a bunch of hats that I've worn in the industry, and what I really wanted to do was bring all of the information I had about being a content creator and the experiences that I've had from all of the different seats I've sat in, and kind of share with you how you can have like the best experience with interacting with content creators. I know this talk is appealing to content creators, but really when you have a game design, the design, you're going to appeal to content creators with a base game that you have that's really good, but you want to have the interactions be like your primary goal when you're interacting with content creators as the positive thing you have. So, what is a content creator? And in this regard that I'm talking about today, it's someone that's making a piece of content that's for board games that is either for entertainment or news. So there's all different kinds. There's bloggers, there's journalists, there's photographers, reviewers, overviewers, previewers, interviewers. Like there's a whole slew of different kinds of content that you can have made for your project. And it's not necessarily important to know what the different kinds are, but to know that there are different kinds. I've had people ask me to make content for something that that's not what I do. And it's an awkward conversation when someone asks me if I would, for example, this was before I had my live stream show, if I would interview them. And I don't do interviews. So it's awkward because now I know that you don't know what I do, and I have to say no to you in a kind way, and it's just, everybody has a weird experience. So like I said, it's not necessarily important to know what all the different kinds are, but to know that there are different kinds. So what I kind of want to do today is go chronologically of like how you would reach out to a content creator, when you should reach out to them, and I guess like the steps that you would take with your game. The first place that you want to start with is you want to have a game that's actually ready to go and is not looking for any more playtesting feedback. I have received games in the mail that I couldn't understand the rules, and I've had to reach out to the publisher or the designer and ask questions about things. Iconography wasn't matching with the game. It was just a bunch of text. There were no pictures to point things out. So it was just a really tough experience for me. And the game kind of felt like it was still at its blind playtesting stage. And playtesters are not reviewers, and reviewers aren't playtesters. So you want to make sure your game is in a good place, that it's ready to go. One thing I'd like to say is, a reviewer is going to give you the same feedback that a playtester would, but they're also going to tell the whole world about it. So if you're not ready for the whole world to know what your feedback is going to be, then it's probably not the right time to send your game to a reviewer. So once your game is ready, you've done the blind playtesting, the timeline that you want to start reaching out to the reviewer is like 2 to 3 months in advance. And the reason that you want to reach out to them in such a large amount of time, and I say 2 to 3 months in advance of like your Kickstarter or your crowd sale that you're launching. The reason you want to do it in such a far advanced amount of time is because it takes a long time to make content. And most of us are doing this for free and doing it in our spare time. So we have to allocate time to do all of these steps to get a review done. One example of what I have to go through when I do a review for a video is the game arrives on my doorstep. Let's say it's a medium weight game. I need to play it. I need to find time to play it once. I need to make an opinion, so I probably need to play it twice, maybe 3 times if it's a medium weight game. Now that I've played the game, I need to write a review script. Once I've written the script, I need to set up my recording studio. And that includes the camera and the lights And also because I'm on camera, I want to be presentable. So like I'll do my hair, my face, things that you don't have to do when you do like a written piece of content. Then I have to record. And I probably have a bunch of bloopers. After I'm done recording, you have the editing. Editing takes a while. And if you want to have like a presentable image for your video, you need, if you're not good at Illustrator or Photoshop, it's going to be a little difficult, but you want to have like a nice thumbnail. There's like all these there's all these different steps that take place with making a video. And if I'm having to fit all of this into my day when I have time, I have 2 jobs. So I need to find time to play out the games, do the script, all this stuff. So 2 to 3 months in advance is a great timeline to start reaching out to content creators. Before you start reaching out to them, one thing you really want to know is if you have a budget, if you are going to be willing to pay for content, because like I said, most of us are doing this in our spare time and we do it for free, but there are those out there that charge. And you want to, if you're going to have a budget that is allocated for reviews, you want to make sure you know what that budget is. You want to, what was I going to say? I'm sorry. So you have your budget. You want to know what your target market is. That's what I wanted to get to. Target market is really important, and I think it's important in all different aspects of design. When you're making your game, you want to think about who's going to be playing my game. When you're marketing and advertising, you want to think about who's going to be playing my game. Those are the people I want to see my ads. So when you're reaching out to a content creator, you want to reach out to someone whose target market is the same as your target market. A really good way to do this is think of a game that's similar to your game, or at least is under the same time length, plays about the same amount of people, is a similar kind of weight for your game, and go to Board Game Geek and see who's done reviews of that. That's how you'll find people that are interested in the kind of game that you have. You can also go to YouTube, or you could just Google it if you want to, but that's a really easy way to find people that might be interested in making content for your product. So we have a game that's been blind play tested, it's ready to go. We know our 2 to 3 month timeline, we're getting close to it. We have a budget and we know what our target market is. So we've started looking for content creators. We found a few that we think would work well for us, and we're ready to reach out to them. When you reach out to a content creator, a couple of things that have happened is I have been called the wrong name. There have been the wrong pronouns used. Like I mentioned earlier, they didn't know what kind of content I made, and they asked me for content that I can't make for them. So just do a tiny bit of research in showing that you know who you're reaching out to, and this isn't just someone that you're like, hey, I need a favor, can you do me a favor? It's someone that you actually, here's one way you could say, hey, I saw your review of XYZ game and I thought it was really great, and I think that that game is similar to my game, and I think that you might be interested in reviewing my game. Here's some information about it. If you're interested, I would love to work with you. When you reach out to them and you send that email, a couple of things that you want to include in that email are your Kickstarter date, your timeline, because you want to make sure that the content creator can match your timeline. You want to talk a little bit about your game and give them the information that they need to feel successful, so they can, for example, I don't do party games. So if someone reaches out to me and they don't tell me that the game is 6+ players, when the game arrives, I'm going to be like, oh no, I have to find 3 more people to play this game with me because I just don't have a large group of people. And so those are just little pieces of information that you want to share with the content creator. You want to let them know if you are going to need them to forward the product along. I have been guilty of this, of not reaching out to people and asking if they were okay with forwarding a copy of a game along. And it was actually a difficult thing for them to do. So it's important to make sure that they're okay with doing that. So what I mean by forwarding the game along, I've had content creators, I've had publishers send me a game and ask me to make content for them. But once I'm done, send it either back to them or send it along to another content creator so they can also make content. And you want to make sure that they're okay with doing so. Some people live in rural areas that it's difficult to get to the post office. Sometimes it's a little confusing if I'm going to forward a game to know, am I paying to forward it, or are you paying to forward it? Do I need to ask you to send me a check? I mean, what's this interaction? So try to be as, I guess, as transparent and open with communication as you can be about what's going on with your project. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, this is some information about my game, but there's definitely something wrong with making a content creator's life more difficult when you're asking them for a favor just because you didn't share information that you totally could have shared. All right, let's see. When you are reaching out to your content creator and you have told them, this is my timeline, I'm going to send the game, they say, okay, that's great. Make sure you also send the game when you say you're going to send the game. I have had people ask if the timeline was great, and it was great, and then they sent me the game 2 weeks before their Kickstarter launches instead of when they told me they were going to send it. And I understand things happen, you know, people get products in late from ordering late, or sometimes you have tweaks you need to make. Sometimes you find in blind play testing that the rules just, you need to redo the rules, and now you're kind of backed up, or your Kickstarter's just backed up. Whatever it is, try to just share that information with the content creator, because we're reached out to by a lot of people all the time, and we can only allocate so much time to each game to give it a review. If you reach out to me and I have allocated this time for your game, and then I've allocated this time for somebody else's game, and now your game is on top of that time, I'm rushing. And nobody is going to have a good experience rushing to make you a piece of content. It kind of goes back to that relationship. You want to have a good relationship with the content creator. And I've heard publishers say, well, I need this thing done, and I want them to feel like they can't just slack on it. Yeah, we know we can't slack on it. That's why we picked a deadline, and that's why we have timelines, and that's why we agreed on things. So please don't rush your content creators, because it's just going to initiate a sour taste in their mouth. And it's just happened too many times that it gets to me. A quick story about kind of like what I was saying about if you're forwarding a game along. I just wanted to say this was a really good experience I had with a content creator, or with a publisher. They reached out to me and asked me, to send, or if I would make a review for them, and they did the timeline and everything was on point with their communication. When they sent me the game, they sent me a letter saying thank you and explaining how I was going to be forwarding the game along. They had the address and everything ready to go for who I needed to forward it along. And they sent me a check that paid for the postage and extra to cover my time to go to the post office, get the label put on the box, and ship this off for them. And regardless of whether I was going to enjoy that game or not, I will always want to do content for that publisher, because they took time and care into thinking about my time and my money and my energy. And that was that was the first time I had someone send me the money ahead of time, and I'll never forget it, because I was like, this person actually took the time to care about me. All right, so we have the game ready to go. We've contacted the content creator. They said, yes, it's okay. They're going to make content for us. When we send the email out, when we send the package out, make sure you let the content creator know package is on its way. And also you want to send a press packet. A lot of people don't include that, and it's not really like necessary, but it's just really helpful for a content creator. And in a press packet, what you can email to them is your logo, a picture of the box cover, maybe the rules, maybe blurb about how the game was made, information about the designers, information about the publisher, stuff that prevents us from having to go to Google and seek this stuff out on our own is so helpful. And like I said, it really makes us feel like you're putting us in your mind, and you're not just asking us for, hey, can you do me a favor? I gotta go. I'm trying to think of other things you could put in that press packet. one of the reasons that I mentioned rules, actually, this is kind of important. When, like what I said about how content creators are making their content in the time they have, sometimes I'm on the fly. Let's say I have an hour for a lunch break. I'm going to work on my review on my phone. And sometimes I don't remember the name of that one component. And when I have a script, I want to make sure that what I have said matches what the rules say. So if the rules aren't on my person, but they're available by an email and in a press packet, I can still get my work done. And I feel like it doesn't matter where I am. I can still get my work done. And I don't know how, I can't reiterate, sorry, my mic's on. I can't reiterate how we're taking so much time out of our day to do this. It's such a favor, it feels like. I have heard, though, that some people think of it as like it can be a job for some. But for most of us, it's a two-way street, right? We're helping you with making content, but then you're going to come back and help us by sharing our content and hopefully telling other people that we helped you with this content. When you have the press packet sent and the content creator has the game and they're making the content and you're still keeping in touch with them, make sure that they know that you're thinking about them. Hey, just want to make sure you didn't have any questions about the rules. Just wanted to make sure that you saw the letter or you saw that I needed you to forward the game to this person. If you have any questions, just let me know. Just keep in consistent communication. It makes it, I mean, like I said, we have lives going on and sometimes we forget to let you know that a game arrived, or we forget to tell you, hey, the video was done yesterday because we got it done at 2 in the morning. Just keep in touch with us. It really helps us to know that you're still thinking about the content that's coming out. All right, so now we're at the place where our Kickstarter is launching. We've received the content from our content creators. Please don't ask for content and then not use it. There have been content creators that have made videos and written reviews, and then you go to a Kickstarter page and it's not there. I can understand if you get a review that's bad, not wanting to advertise something where someone didn't enjoy your game, but if these are good reviews and good overviews, you want to have someone feel like you actually care that they made it. So incorporate it and include it in your Kickstarter. You can also share it. Hey, look at what this person made about my game. Check it out. That makes me, if you're doing that about my video, that makes me feel good. It makes me feel like you actually cared about what I made. I'm telling you, it's all about the relationship. It's all about keeping in communication and just doing what you can to make someone feel like they matter. Once the Kickstarter is over, make sure that you fulfill any promises that you've kept to your content creators. Some content creators require, well, they don't require, but it's, they request that if your game funds on Kickstarter, you send them a final copy. This is not getting paid. We're asking as a favor for doing this work for you to let us have a copy of your game so we can continue to share it, especially if we had to send the prototype onward and now we have no way of playing the game with anybody. Yes, we can back your game, but some of us have budgets. And I know that some people consider getting a game for free to be a way of getting paid. Now I'm going to sell this game, make some money. Nobody's doing that. We just want to share your game. So if your game, I know that games don't cost that much when they're manufactured. If your game is affordable enough that you can send a copy to a reviewer and it's not going to break your bank, and you've promised to do this, please just do it. I probably 80% of the people that say they will send me a final copy do not. And it's kind of frustrating. Mostly because, I just put in hours and hours of work for you, and all I asked for was to keep playing your game. So it's a really easy thing to do to just send another copy along. When you're done with your interaction with a content creator, just say thank you. If anybody has any questions about the content creator themselves, and you had a good interaction, let people know that you had a good interaction. There's some things that can be difficult to explain to people, like, oh, I had a good review, I had a good overview. Like, there's terminology questions that people will have. But for the most part, just be kind and, I don't know, like have a good relationship with the content creators. Share their products, share their services. Let them know that you're thinking about them. Keep to your promises, keep to your timelines, keep to your deadlines. Don't treat them as a playtester, treat them as the reviewer that they are. And that's really all I have about reaching out to content creators. There is some things that I wanted to go over that don't really fit in the timeline, and those are things about like terminology. One thing is, I mentioned overview, review, preview. Those things tend to get really jumbled up, and this is coming from me, so I know some people might not agree wholeheartedly with how I'm explaining these terms, but an overview is like an overview. Here's the game, how it plays, some information, no opinion. It's an overview. A preview is usually prior to the manufacturing and having final components. Sometimes it has an opinion in it and sometimes it doesn't. That's one thing you want to check on when you're reaching out to a content creator and you want to read actually what they say. Did this person give an opinion? Is that what I'm looking for? Is someone to play my game and give an opinion? Am I just looking for someone to talk about my game? Know what you're looking for. So that's overview, preview. Preview is prior to manufacturing. And then review is usually, it can be before the game is manufactured or after, but it's primarily an opinion. So, like I said, just know what you're looking for if you want opinion or not. I think that's all I've got. Yes?
You put those three in, overview, preview, review, but what about how-to? At what point would you do a how-to video?
Okay, the question was, so we have preview, review, overview, but how do we know when a how-to is? Or when to get a how-to video? Most people Most backers don't want to read. They want to watch and they want to see GIFs, however you pronounce it. They want videos. So if you are going to have some kind of visual way of explaining the game, regardless of whether it's a how to play video or it's just little animations, that's really, really helpful. So I guess the answer is it depends if you already have something to showcase it visually or if you are still in need of having something visual. I think having just written explanations and having just rules available for most people isn't enough. They want to be able to see the game, they want to see how it's playing, they want to see hands moving things around. So that's, I guess, the answer to my question is if you don't have anything visual, I would definitely get something visual. Yeah?
Does that make your life easier then as a reviewer? You can use one of those if they have it available by the time they send you a copy?
How to play? The question was, is having a how to play video ahead of having a review requested easier? I would say yes, because most of the time how to play videos have explained the game in the correct way. So if I'm reading rules, sometimes things can get, especially if these are maybe not the final version, you don't have the graphic design done, but you have the core of the game ready to go. It's definitely more helpful to have the how to play video ahead of time, but I can understand. I mean, we play games all the time. Reviewers know how to read rules, so it's not necessary, but it's definitely helpful. Yes?
Is there a recommended amount that you should budget in terms of like asking for paid reviews?
The question was
paid content, I guess.
Sure. The question was, is there a recommended budget for having paid content? Well, I don't know if I can recommend a budget, but I can tell you I have seen the cost of videos range between for a review or an overview where there's no opinion, but they're still sharing the images and the how to play of the game, between 150 and 300. So that should help you. Like I said, most content creators don't charge, but if you want to get some of the bigger names like Man vs. Meeple, Girls Game Shelf, things like that, and you want them to make content for you, I believe they both charge. And from what I've seen over the course of all of the people I've interacted with, it's between 150 and 300 for a video. Yes?
Does it make sense to have content for a game that's nowhere near ready for production?
The question was, does it make sense to have a review for a game that's not ready for production?
Well, I guess, I mean, not so much not ready for production, but it's not in the pipeline yet. Like, it's basically, it's been through a lot of play testing, but not, it's not, there's no Kickstarter imminent.
Okay, the question is, if you don't have like a Kickstarter date ready to go, is now a good time still to reach out and have content made for your game? I would say probably not. You want it to be, that 2 to 3 month timeline that I gave is not necessarily just for the content creator, but it's also, you want people to start seeing the content come out closer to your campaign, because if it comes out too soon, they're going to forget about it. And now new content that they've made is coming out, and those ones are getting shared, and those ones are on the top of the list. So I would say wait until you have some idea of when you're going to launch your Kickstarter or your crowd sale, and then once you have that 2 to 3 month timeline is really when you should start reaching out, because beforehand it's just going to be too soon, I think. Yes?
So I'm sure they can't all be winners. How do you handle bad reviews, and as a designer, how should we handle the bad reviews?
All right, the question was, how do you handle a bad review that comes, or a game that maybe a game you don't like, and you're going to have a review that's going to state so. The way I handle games that I don't like is I usually say what I do like about it, and then I say what I don't like about it and why. If you have someone that, hopefully your content creator is willing to give that feedback, and they're not just like, I didn't like it, the end. Hopefully they're saying, I didn't like it, this is why, and this is what I would change, and these are some ideas. That's, for me personally, that's how I do it, is if I don't like a game, I'll say what I don't like about it, but I'll also recommend people that I think might like it. So maybe it's a game that's more for families, and I don't have any children, so I'll say, this was a little too light for me, but if you have children, this would probably work really well for them. Any other questions? Yes?
So at the beginning you were saying get a finished copy or a nearly finished copy to the content creator, but then later on you were talking about sending them a finished copy.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be better to send them a lighter weight version of your game that really demonstrates the core concepts and mechanics of your game, or should you send them just straight away a finished version that you would be putting into production?
The question was, should you have your game be close to production, almost ready to go when you send it out, or is it okay to have a couple of things not totally complete?
Right, just a few missing pieces.
Okay. My answer to that is, I think having a lighter version of the game is okay. I have received games personally where it wasn't the whole thing, like maybe there's a solo version and it came with 3 or 4 out of the 20 cards that are going to be included for the solo version of the game. Or it's meant for 4 players, but I'm only sending you the amount of components to play for 2. So those things are totally fine, because we're still getting what the game is and the essence of the mechanics and the total experience. And you're also saving money and saving time. Yes?
As a fellow content creator, are you worried about burnout?
The question was, am I worried about burnout? I have burned myself out before, and I took a hiatus, and then I came back to it. So it definitely happens, which is one of the reasons why those timelines are important, is because content creators can get burnt out if you are sending stuff to them too late, and now they're having to rush. I have been guilty of saying yes to too many things and having to do a couple of all-nighters and spending long weekends just editing all weekend long, and it's not a fun experience for me. So I would definitely say burnout's a real thing, and if you see a content creator fall off the face of the earth, they probably are burnt out. Any other questions? Yes.
I'm really glad you mentioned sending a press kit, because that's not something I would have thought about, especially with those things in it. I would not have thought of sending digital assets from the game, like logos and card images and things like that. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Should I send that? Is that something to send initially, or is that something to send after we've kind of agreed on, like, yes, I think this is cool, and I'll do your overview or whatever, or should I send it with the initial pitch? And if I should send with the initial pitch, what should I send, like an Excel sheet or something like that, or just a written description of the game?
All right, the question was, when you're reaching out to content creators, when is the right time to send a press packet? Is it when you first reach out to them? And if that's not the right time, what should you be sending them when you first reach out? Press packet's really good to send out once the agreement has been made that they're going to make the content. Otherwise, it's a bunch of information you're sending them for no reason. What you should send with the first interaction is, it doesn't have to necessarily be like a sell sheet or any documentation. Just give an informational blurb about your game. How many players it is, how long it plays, what kind of mechanics we're expecting, what the story is. I mean, they're kind of like things that are included in a sell sheet, but a sell sheet also like lists components, and it has pictures of the game, and it has your contact information, and its market is more for a publisher, and as a reviewer, we don't need all of the extra, like how many components there are and all that jazz. What we just need is to know, is this something that fits within the realm of content I make? Yes.
So you mentioned that you do most of these or all of them for free. How formal do your agreements to do this content go? Like, is it just, I shoot you an email and you say, oh, that's cool, and then, okay, I'll send you the materials, or do you typically write up like a contract? What's the process?
Sure. The question was, when I have an agreement with someone to make content for them, is there like a formal agreement, or is this just a quick, yes, I'll do it for you? Usually it's a pretty informal yes by email. I consider yeses by email to be contracts. If nowadays governments will email you papers that are formal government emails, and it has like super important stuff attached. And they consider your email to be a part of your identity now with some things. And I think by just having a positive communication with the email is enough. You don't need to have anything formal. You don't need a formal written contract. Just, hey, this is what I was thinking about doing. Does this timeline work for you? Are you okay if I send the game after, if I fund, blah, blah, blah. Anybody else? Yes.
One more question. Okay, so I know this comes up a lot with like first-time designers and people, but if someone sends you a non-disclosure agreement, do you sign those? Because I know we generally, as in more experienced design circles, discourage that because it's not necessary. But like, say someone reaches out to you and says, "We really like to make this content. Can you sign this NDA?" Is that something that you do, or is that something that you just like forget about?
The question was, if I'm sent an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, would I sign it? I have personally never been sent an NDA for making content, but there are embargoes about when to release the content. So that's something to keep in mind, is when you reach out to the content, I'm glad you asked that. When you reach out to the content creator, let them know, hey, I don't want you to share the content until X date, or let them know, hey, whenever it's ready, feel free to share. But I've never experienced an NDA personally, so it's a hard one for me to answer.
An NDA goes completely against what you're asking from a content creator.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
So do you have your own channel where you publish these things you do for other people, or is it strictly for how they want to use it? So
The question was, when I make content, do I share it to my channel, or are there other ways that I get that content to the publisher? And the second question was, why do I do this for free? The first answer is, actually, I want to answer the second question first. I do this for free because, so when I first started making content, I would find board games that looked really interesting, and I wanted to watch a video of how it played. And I would either A, find no videos about how it played, or a review of the game or anything, or what I found was the person who designed the game making a video with their camera shaking and their hands moving in sporadic ways, and it was not a great video. So I really started making content because it was just a passion. I felt there was this missing thing for a lot of games, and my focus is on smaller scale games, and I have a website called the Indie Game Report, so we focus really on indie stuff. So I just wanted to do something nice. I'm sorry, what was the first question again?
So when you do something for free for a designer like a reviewer,
That's right.
do you have the permission to post it on your channel or your website, or is it strictly owned by them to do with what they want to do with it?
So the question, sorry, I'm going to reiterate the question. When I make content, am I giving it to them? Am I putting it on my website? Who's got ownership of the content, and what are they doing with it? When I make a piece of content, it's mine. I have been asked to do someone a service, but the service, I've not been hired. I've been asked to do a favor. And so when I make a video, I post it to my channel. If I'm hired to do something like a tutorial, I provide the file to the person that's hired me to do that. That's one thing I do charge is for tutorials. I don't charge for reviews. When I'm giving an opinion, that's free. I'm not going to charge you for my opinion. But when I'm doing a hefty service, like tutorials take hours and hours to do. So those ones I do charge for. And like I said, with those ones, I will send them the file. They can put it on their YouTube channel. They can embed it right into their Kickstarter. They can put it on their homepage, whatever they want to do. But when I have a review, I usually link it to my YouTube, and that's like the main location that they can pull it from. I don't send them the final file. So I consider, for the sake of like entertainment content, I consider that to be my own. It's the same as if I had a blog and I was just talking about someone's game on my blog. Any other questions? How much time am I at?
It's 4:08. You're 40 minutes.
Okay. All right, so I'm not too far off.
People probably would appreciate a little break.
All right. Well, if no one has any other questions, that's my presentation.